Your first instinct is going to be how productive and effective are they? But do not do that before you look at EQ. Their emotional intelligence is actually first and foremost the most important thing, because if they cannot connect with other people, they will not lead other people.
My experience was that people that are coming in very early with big checks like that, they also have very restrictive covenants, right? And then when we kind of did the math, and it's like, wait, we're giving up board control in the first round that we're ever gonna do. Like, when the business is 6 months old, we're gonna give up control of the board. That doesn't seem smart, right? And then like you do a little bit of research and it's like, wow, yeah, you can, if you have a bad investor early on, that can kill you, right? It's like, and if you give up board control, you can get fired out of your own business.
Everything does happen for a reason. There's learned experiences around everything that you may view as a failure or an obstacle. Someone once told me that obstacles are put in front of you every day, and they're there to figure out whether you really truly want something or you thought you wanted it. And so I tried to live that way. People will tell you that I am very much a visionary, but I'm also a heavy duty executor. And so I just look at challenges like, again, do I really want it or do I think that I want something? So I would just remind myself of that and say, you know, the things I fought for made it all worth it.
Oh man. You know, I don't want to encourage irresponsible behavior based off my own, but I would say to them and say, look, I would say time box it and just be like, look,
I like that.
Just time box it. You got to come up like goals. You know, one of the phrases I love is goals without timelines are just dreams. And so, you know, that's something I always tell people, like, look, get a goal in 6 months. You're supposed to be here. If you're not there, have an accountability group around you of 3 or 4 people that say, we're going to pull the plug on this, right? And,
you know, sometimes things happen and you've done everything right and something goes wrong. And I think we do a really, bad job in the startup community, especially. You know, we say that failure is really important and failure is nothing to be ashamed of, but the truth is, like, having been an entrepreneur that felt like I failed, it did not feel like I could be open about that. It did not feel like that was supported. It felt like all of a sudden you're no longer in the winner's circle and everyone's like, okay, well, that's not where we want to focus. And so I love that, we're building this fund where we do get to say to entrepreneurs, like, this is not about you. You did not do a bad job. Just life happens. And sometimes your business doesn't go the way you hoped it would.
Yeah, I think it's 2 things. One of them is project. I have this project called Traveler's Haven. I want to look back many years from now and be very proud of what we did here from that project. I go back to my first intern project, my first class project, and I still remember those very fondly. I want to do something similar here. But then second, I want to help build better people and get them ready for their next chapters. Whether that next chapter is in our company or not, I don't care. And we've done certain things internally with benefits, with our leadership training program. And I want them to look back, and they don't even have to thank me, but at least if I give them the tools to be successful and they can look back at their time at Traveler's Haven, to me, that's a win too.
Well, and they're so basic, and
I know.
They're so basic, like sending to whom it may concern, email or letter, or coming into an interview without a notebook and without questions about the position and the company. It's, I have not stopped in a rude way, but very much shortened interviews maybe were to take 45 minutes or an hour down to 15 minutes in these situations, because it's just not worth my time.
I think before, my core purpose for my first 2 companies, honestly, was like, it was still mission driven, but I think it was probably a little bit more ego driven. And like this idea of like achievement in this American mindset of like achievement and materialism and individual success. And now I view it as like, that the best thing we all need to do is create a better society. We all benefit from that, and that's the goal. And that I actually, ironically, I think when I connect with people in that way and I see the impact on students, especially with Verto now, I get a lot more joy out of that. Personally, I feel a sense in my body and in my heart, a lot more joy from that kind of impact than I do from a monetary success.
You need a network when if you need to raise the money, for example, as a pre-seed, the early stages of the company, talk to the entrepreneurs that have been raising the money in the past so that they can help you out with the pitch deck as well as with the pitch itself. Definitely, make connections with the entrepreneurs, hustle, so that they can make introductions to their investors, so that it will be more credible, and then better for you and easier for you to raise the money.
Yeah, it is. I got houses on the line to prove it. College tuition for my little boys, it's all tied up. So I'm pot committed for sure.
Any aspiring entrepreneur listening to this call, thinking about starting a business? Anything you want to share with them real quick? A couple of tips.
Do it for the right reasons. So many people, they the word entrepreneur is it's turned into this vogue kind of word. It's not this easy path. It is a very in the trenches, and I'm sure a lot of people on this podcast have attested to it before as well. Yes. It's not for the faint of heart. It's challenging. You better be ready to face challenges and power through those. So, but at the same time, it's, in a lot of regards, you can control your destiny, and that's the fun stuff, right? It's challenges to me are actually the most exciting part.
That careers sputter out if you're not constantly adding to your skills base, because your skills are dying. Companies are looking for ways that machines can do what you're doing. If you're not ahead of the trends in your industry, you're on your way out. You can't hunker down, keep your head low. Right? People think they can, that they'll make it to the finish line. They won't. So you have to constantly be ahead of it. If you have the highest salary in the room, which better employees tend to, then you had better be able to deliver a heck of a lot more than somebody who's a fresh graduate who is right up on the latest technology.
Great
because
point.
if you can't, you're going to be unemployed.
That's awesome. Yep.
And people love to help, and that's something you need to learn, and don't be afraid to ask. If you don't know, there's books for everything, and that's something I learned as a kid, is there's a book for everything. You need to learn how to do something, there's a book, but there's also a person that takes 20 to 30 minutes that can teach you the same thing as a whole book. So don't be afraid to ask. If you're an entrepreneur and you want to talk about funding, find your local entrepreneur organization and call them and say, hey, I don't know crap about funding, can you help me?
And it sounds like you don't have to have a perfect plan or a perfect pitch deck or a 5-year financial model. You can just have the conversations early. It's possible.
That's as a founder too, I would eliminate that word from your vocabulary. Perfect.
That was good. Yeah.